Welcome, everyone. We are so glad you're joining us for another custom-tailored deep dive. I want you to start off today by asking yourself a question. Just imagine this scenario. What if the fate of the entire world relied on a single piece of music?
And not just any music, right?
Right, a symphony that has been deliberately shattered, split apart across time, hidden within the lives of forgotten female composers, and guarded by the twin sister of history's most famous wizard.
It's an incredibly evocative premise, and it's the central puzzle we're analyzing today. We are looking at the source material from The Last Labyrinth, which is a captivating, mystical time travel novel by USA Today bestselling author Gwendolyn Womack.
We've got a massive stack of excerpts, plot points, and character histories right here.
Yeah, the mission today is to thoroughly examine the really intricate layers of this story. We're looking at how the author weaves together history, science, and mythology.
We are going to explore the underlying mechanics of how time travel actually operates in this specific universe. We'll delve into the forgotten history of female composers, examine the intersection of ancient magic and modern atmospheric science.
And we definitely need to unpack the profound linguistics of love and fate.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the narrative anchors itself initially not in the ancient past, but in modern-day Queens, New York. We start with a protagonist named Magellan Brighton. The sources position her as a deeply complex starting point for a global crisis.
She's a modern-day musical prodigy, but her existence is almost entirely hidden from the world.
Right, and the details of her early life are particularly striking. The text notes she was adopted as an infant, and for the first 4 years of her life, she was entirely mute.
Which is wild. Her parents actually had her tested for autism and other developmental delays.
Yeah.
But during that testing, a completely different reality emerged.
The clinicians discovered she has this intense synesthesia-like ability to play literally any instrument perfectly.
Yeah, she can recreate any song she hears with absolute precision.
But the breakthrough only happens when a speech therapist introduces a vital concept to her, which is that her own voice is an instrument too.
That framing is what unlocks her speech. She transitions from humming to singing to eventually talking.
However, music remains her primary, most comfortable language. And this brings us to a significant psychological barrier she faces. The sources describe her as suffering from extreme glossophobia.
For those of us who might not be familiar with the clinical term, glossophobia goes significantly beyond standard stage fright, doesn't it?
It really does. It's not just, getting butterflies before a presentation.
Right.
That's correct. It is a debilitating, visceral fear of public speaking. Or in Magellan's case, a terror of being watched, perceived, or judged while performing.
It's a paralyzing anxiety disorder.
The text actually suggests that if her parents had pushed her into the spotlight, her sheer technical talent could have made her the next Mozart.
But instead, recognizing the severity of her phobia, she was homeschooled and heavily sheltered.
The juxtaposition there is fascinating. The author is placing the weight of a world-ending catastrophe squarely on the shoulders of a woman whose greatest psychological terror is being seen.
Which brings us to the inciting incident of the novel. The date is October 24th, which happens to be Magellan's birthday. She's inside her apartment when her roommate, Wren,
who is an opera singer noted for having a voice that can literally shatter glass, by the way.
Yes, exactly. Wren calls her and insists she look out the window.
Given that Magellan also struggles with a fear of heights, approaching her third-floor window is an ordeal.
But when she finally looks out over Manhattan, she witnesses this massive atmospheric anomaly.
In the middle of the day.
Right in the middle of the day, a brilliant, sweeping aurora borealis fills the sky over New York City. It's casting indigo, green, and violet ribbons of light across the skyline.
The imagery is beautiful, but the context the author provides immediately grounds it in terror.
The meteorologists and news anchors are in a state of absolute panic. They aren't treating this as a localized optical illusion.
No, it is a symptom of a massive global geomagnetic storm. The Earth's magnetic poles are threatening to flip.
The narrative brilliantly juxtaposes this modern, macro-level atmospheric panic with a micro-level ancient mystery unfolding across town.
Because while Magellan is paralyzed by the sky, a mysterious package is delivered to the head curator at the Morgan Library and Museum.
And the scene at the Morgan Library is so richly detailed. The curator is presented as a highly logical historian, an expert whose entire life is dedicated to verifying medieval manuscripts.
He receives this package from an organization called the Liron Institute, based in England.
The accompanying letter features an ancient Egyptian emblem of Horus and delivers a really blunt directive. It just says, "The fate of the world rests in protecting this book."
Furthermore, it specifically instructs him to deliver the artifact to Magellan Brighton.
And the artifact itself completely defies his historical categorization.
It is a 6th century, pocket-sized diary constructed of rag paper and parchment, featuring a Celtic Triskelion engraved on its leather cover.
But it isn't the physical age of the book that shatters the curator's logical framework. It's the translation of the very first page, which is written in flawless Old English.
The author introduces herself as the twin sister of a wildly famous brother, and then she writes a sentence that should be historically impossible.
The specific phrasing she uses is what forces the curator to question everything he knows.
The translation reads, "A grand secret lies at the heart of life that must be remembered if we are to save this world once more. Every atom on this planet sings the same song."
What's fascinating here is the linguistics of that specific phrase.
The curator knows Old English intimately. He understands that the conceptual framework of an atom did not exist in 6th century Britain.
The original Old English text literally utilizes a kenning, which is a compound expression in Old English poetry with metaphorical meaning for the phrase life spark.
It translates structurally to "every life spark makes the same music."
He realizes this author possesses advanced atomic knowledge centuries before the scientific revolution.
As the curator walks outside and observes the aurora borealis hanging over Madison Avenue, his purely academic worldview fractures.
He begins forming his own mental kennings, connecting the atmospheric anomaly in the sky to the impossible physics described in the diary on his desk.
He realizes he is holding the authentic memoir of Merlin's twin sister.
So we have an impending geomagnetic apocalypse, a crumbling magnetic field, and a 6th century diary destined for a phobic musician in Queens.
The sources tell us the connective tissue between these elements is a labyrinth in the year 1829.
The narrative shifts timelines entirely at this point, moving to 1827 and 1829, focusing on Hereford Manor in England.
This sprawling estate is home to Rhys Sherwood, the Earl of Liron, and his deeply eccentric father, Gwendolyn Sherwood.
The geography and architecture of Hereford Manor seem to function as a core mechanism for the story, rather than just a setting.
The estate is dominated by a wickedly complex circular labyrinth.
The text notes, it was designed to be almost impenetrable. Casual visitors come from miles around just to attempt it, invariably getting lost to the point where groundsmen have to extract them using specialized maps.
But to Rhys, the labyrinth is a sanctuary. He navigates it by muscle memory.
The labyrinth serves a dual purpose. It is a physical maze, but more importantly, it is a metaphysical fortress constructed to protect the anomaly at its center.
An ancient stone circle. This circle consists of 3 towering standing stones surrounded by 9 smaller ones.
Every stone is heavily engraved with ancient Atlantean symbols. Local legend attributes the construction of the site directly to Merlin.
Godwin, Rhys's father, treats the stone circle as his life's work. Godwin is characterized as an alchemist and an antiquarian.
The sources describe a scene in 1827 where Rhys finds his father literally stringing various musical instruments, bells, chimes, thick ropes across the standing stones.
Godwin confidently claims he is building a time machine.
He posits a theory that the world, including its various unseen dimensions, is entirely connected by sound frequencies.
He even argues that the Great Pyramid in Egypt is not a tomb, but a massive sound chamber.
Rhys, approaching the world as a logical linguist, assumes his father's mental faculties are declining.
During this interaction, Godwin touches the Triskelion symbol on the standing stones and issues a prophecy to his son.
He states that one day, a lady will arrive out of nowhere within this labyrinth, and when she does, Rhys must give her a specific book.
Rhys dismisses this entirely. The timeline then jumps 2 years to 1829. Godwin has passed away, leaving Rhys as the Earl.
Rhys is currently hosting a begrudging house party, searching for a wealthy bride to rescue the estate from financial ruin.
Seeking refuge from potential suitors, he retreats to the center of the labyrinth.
There, he finds a young woman lying completely unconscious in the middle of the stone circle.
So she blacks out in modern-day Manhattan and wakes up in the 19th century.
But she doesn't just wake up anywhere. The specific location of where she lands is actually the key to how this whole time travel mechanism works, isn't it?
Exactly. The sources mentioned she was playing a pipe organ at a wedding at St. Paul's Chapel in Lower Manhattan, right as the polar shift panic was escalating.
That is the crucial mechanical link in Womack's universe. The time travel is not arbitrary. It relies entirely on the concept of ley lines.
These are theorized alignments of ancient sites or holy places, which the novel treats as literal magnetic currents circling the Earth. effectively the planet's nervous system.
The geomagnetic storm causing the aurora borealis is actively destabilizing the planet's magnetic field, blowing open these ancient ley lines that serve as dimensional doorways.
St. Paul's Chapel in New York is built directly on an intersection of these lines. The stone circle in the Hereford Labyrinth is built on another.
And the trigger mechanism to open these doors is sound.
Magellan, seeking comfort from the panic outside, begins playing Bach on the chapel's pipe organ.
Her synesthesia, combined with her perfect pitch and intense emotional state, allows her to hit the exact resonant frequency required to unlock the ley line.
She hits the note, the portal opens, and she falls through to 1829.
When Rhys discovers her, she is wearing modern clothing and is profoundly disoriented, repeatedly asking if she is still in Lower Manhattan.
Rhys's initial reaction is pure skepticism. He suspects she might be a madwoman, or perhaps an overly ambitious marriage candidate who somehow navigated his private labyrinth to corner him.
His skepticism begins to crack when Magellan recognizes the name of the Liron Institute and mentions the diary.
Rhys suddenly remembers his father's prophecy. He actually has the ancient diary secured in his library. He has been slowly attempting to translate it from Old English.
This creates a fascinating dynamic. Magellan has the context of the global threat from the future, and Rhys has the physical artifact from the past.
Together, they have to decode the true author of that diary.
Do the sources give us a deeper understanding of who this author actually was? Because when we hear about Arthurian legends, the focus is universally on Merlin.
The concept of him having a twin sister who is equally, if not more important to the cosmos, is a massive paradigm shift.
Gwyned's history is intricately detailed in the text. She was born in the 6th century, a period classified as the Iron Age.
To understand her role, we have to look at the grand cosmology the novel establishes.
The Earth operates on a massive 12,000-year cycle, oscillating between a cosmic day and a cosmic night.
The Golden Age represented a time of profound planetary connection, high vibration, and enlightenment.
However, by the 6th century, humanity has descended deep into the Dark Iron Age. The planetary vibration is low, and ancient magic is rapidly fading from the world.
And Gwynedd is trapped by the gender politics of her era. Despite possessing immense power and knowledge, she cannot publicly become a bard or a wizard like her brother.
She's forced to hide her light. The sources indicate she is married off purely for a political alliance to King Rhydrig, who crowns her Langorith, which translates to the Golden One.
Despite her public subjugation, secretly she forms a vital triad of power: Gwynedd, Merlin, and the legendary bard Taliesin.
In the diary, she beautifully refers to this triad as 2 comets and a North Star.
Their purpose is not merely local politics. They share a grand, ancient mission that predates them by millennia.
This mission traces back to a guardian goddess named Isis, whom the text claims is secretly buried at Stonehenge.
The mythology here is incredibly dense. According to the diary's lore, Isis recognized that the planet would face future cataclysms as it moved through the Dark Ages.
To protect the Earth, she created a vibrational shield powered by a specific immense song.
But knowing that a single entity could be destroyed, she fractured the song into 6 distinct parts and hid them within a labyrinth of time.
Isis entrusted 5 parts of this world-saving symphony to the reincarnating souls of specific women throughout history.
The final 6th part she gave to her son, Horus.
Gwynedd, through her esoteric studies and her connection to the Triad, realizes that she possesses one of these specific souls.
But Gwynedd faces a massive limitation. The sources state she doesn't possess the specific frequency or power to physically travel through time in her 6th century incarnation.
She knows the song needs to be reassembled, but she can't be the one to gather the pieces.
So she makes a staggering choice. She writes the diary to her future reincarnated self.
It is a remarkable narrative device that blends reincarnation with temporal mechanics.
She writes, "I say I, but I really mean you, for I am writing to my future self."
The philosophical weight of that is immense. Magellan is sitting in a 19th century manner, reading a 6th century manuscript, and slowly realizing that the author guiding her is the echo of her own soul from a past life.
Gwynedd uses the diary to leave a trail of breadcrumbs. She explicitly tells Magellan that she must utilize the ley lines to journey through the labyrinth of time, locate the other reincarnated women, and reassemble the fragments of the symphony before the upcoming winter solstice.
The stakes are absolute.
If the song is not played by the solstice, the geomagnetic storm will cause the Earth's poles to break apart entirely, ending all life.
But Magellan is not expected to navigate this temporal labyrinth blindly. The narrative introduces a guide, and this connects Magellan's isolated modern childhood directly to the ancient cosmic battle.
The sources introduce a character named Garesh.
Garesh initially appears as a seemingly normal, albeit mysterious, figure in Magellan's early life. He is her gentle music teacher in Queens.
He's the one who introduces her to obscure ancient instruments, and he pushes her to overcome her glossophobia enough to audition for Juilliard.
He frequently tells her that her ship would depart one day. He is described as a man who values profound silence and vaguely claims to be from everywhere.
Following her Juilliard audition, Garesh departs from her life, but he leaves her with a specific artifact, a bronze gold ring deeply engraved with symbols.
When Magellan finds herself trapped in the 1829 labyrinth, she examines the towering standing stones and realizes the symbols on her ring are an exact match for the Atlantean symbols carved by Merlin centuries earlier.
The linguistic translation of these symbols is simply "know the way."
The revelation of who Garesh truly is hits Magellan as she reads deeper into Gwyneth's diary.
Gwynedd recounts being taught about the cosmos and frequency by a mysterious immortal in the 6th century. His name was Garesh.
He is revealed to be an immortal Sumerian, an ancient guide who has been carefully watching over this specific lineage of souls for millennia.
He gave the ring to Gwynedd in the Iron Age, and centuries later, he places it in the hands of Magellan in modern New York.
The ring acts as the literal compass necessary to navigate the ley lines.
However, possessing the compass does not negate the extreme peril of the journey. The rules governing time travel in this universe are unforgiving.
To open a dimensional doorway to the next required time period, Magellan must play the fragments of the song she has gathered.
But doing so has a violent physical reaction. The pure resonance of the music actively splinters the walls of the temporal labyrinth.
This raises an important question about the cosmology Womack has built. If the music is the key to saving the world, why does playing it cause such destruction to the pathways?
It connects to the concept of vibrational balance. Gwynedd's diary warns Magellan that playing the song will inevitably attract entities known as shadows.
The text describes these as lower-dimensional, low-vibrational beings, what various human religious traditions might interpret as demons.
Because they exist in darkness, they intensely crave the high-frequency light and power generated by the song.
They are driven by a compulsion to either possess that light or completely annihilate it.
It creates a terrifying catch-22 for Magellan. It's essentially like turning on a massive floodlight in a pitch-black forest to see the path ahead, but realizing that the light is simultaneously showing every predator exactly where you are.
Every time she uses her musical gift to open a portal, she rings a dinner bell for these dark entities.
Precisely. The only tactical defense they have is to reach hollow ground areas where the Earth's natural resonant frequency is too high for the shadows to penetrate, or to quickly jump through the portal to another era, as the shadows lack the ring's ability to navigate the lead lines.
It functions as a brilliant thematic metaphor. The act of profound creation, the making of art that heals and connects, inherently attracts forces of negativity and destruction. It requires immense vulnerability.
With the stakes and the threats established, Magellan and Rhys begin their journey to locate the lost women of music.
And looking at the sources, this segment of the novel seems to be its thematic core. Magellan isn't just jumping to random historical eras. She is specifically seeking out female composers who held the fragmented pieces of the world-saving song.
The historical eras they visit are rich with detail. They jump to Florence in 1165 to locate Maddalena Castellana.
Historically, Castellana is incredibly significant. She was the first female composer in the history of Western music to have an entire book of her music printed and published.
They also travel to retrieve pieces from Hildegard of Bingen, the renowned mystic and composer.
But the most emotionally resonant jumps involve their race to find Fanny Mendelssohn and Nannerl Mozart, the older sister of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
This is where we really need to dig into the historical context the author is leveraging, because it completely recontextualizes the mission.
The sources spend significant time on the tragedy of Nannerl Mozart. In her youth, she toured extensively with Wolfgang.
Contemporary accounts often considered her his equal on the harpsichord, and some critics of the time even suggested she was superior.
But as she reached marriageable age, societal dictates forced her to stop performing entirely. She was sent away to marry a magistrate, while Wolfgang went on to achieve immortal fame.
And the situation with Fanny Mendelssohn is equally stark. Fanny was an incredibly prolific composer, creating hundreds of works.
However, due to the gender biases of the 19th century, her family actively discouraged her from publishing.
Consequently, a significant portion of her work was published under the name of her brother, Felix Mendelssohn.
Womack uses these real historical injustices to weave a profound feminist critique into the fabric of this magical realism adventure.
Gwyneth's diary explicitly notes that history was written by men and that this patriarchal archiving deliberately obscured the light of these brilliant female creators.
But in the universe of The Last Labyrinth, this isn't just a matter of unfair historical record-keeping. It has literal catastrophic consequences.
That is the crucial insight of the novel. The Earth's magnetic field is collapsing, the poles are shifting, and the world is dying because the female voice has been systematically silenced for millennia.
The planet is fundamentally out of balance. The low vibrational Iron Age was characterized by this suppression.
To halt the geomagnetic storm and save the planet, the divine feminine must be reharmonized and publicly acknowledged.
So, what does this all mean for the reader's understanding of Magellan's quest?
It means she isn't just fulfilling a standard fantasy trope of a chosen one stopping a magical storm. She is acting as a literal historical corrective.
By seeking out Castellana, Hildegard, Nannerl, and Fanny, Magellan is validating the genius of women who were forced into the shadows of their famous male counterparts.
The world can only be saved by listening to the women it previously ignored.
It is a powerful narrative statement suggesting that historical erasure carries cosmic weight. The health of the planet is directly tied to the equity of its voices.
And as Magellan wrestles with this massive historical burden, we have to look at how Rhys Sherwood functions alongside her.
Rhys brings a vital thematic element to the story through his obsession with linguistics.
The characterization of Rhys is wonderful. He is this highly educated, slightly stuffy 19th century earl who initially just wants to stay in his library and read about the newly discovered Rosetta Stone.
But as he gets swept up in this time travel adventure, his academic interests provide a framework for understanding their emotional journey.
He subscribes to the Czech proverb, learn a new language and get a new soul. He collects words from around the world that defy direct English translation.
The sources provide specific examples of the words Rhys fixates on, and examining them closely reveals how they mirror the novel's themes of reincarnation and soul memory.
For example, he contemplates saudade, a Portuguese word describing a deep emotional state of melancholic longing for a person or place that one loves, but which may never return.
And he thinks of mangata, a Swedish word that specifically describes the road-like reflection that the moon makes on the water.
There is yunfen, a Mandarin concept that describes the binding force of fate that draws two specific people together.
He considers Goya, a Persian word for the precise moment when a fantasy or a suspension of disbelief becomes so intense it feels like reality.
And perhaps most poignantly, hyreth, a Welsh concept, roughly translating to a deep homesickness for a home you cannot return to, or perhaps one that never was.
When we analyze these words within the context of the novel, they elevate from mere vocabulary to profound spiritual indicators.
When Gwyneth first meets the bard Taliesin in the 6th century, she describes experiencing hyreth, a profound homesickness for a past life they shared together in the Golden Age.
The narrative suggests that these untranslatable words are actually humanity's subconscious attempt to articulate the lingering echoes of past lives.
The linguistic gaps in our current language are essentially the spaces where soul memory leaks through.
And because spoken language frequently fails to capture the immense depth of the reincarnated soul, music steps in as the ultimate language.
Music is the purest, untranslatable word, communicating cosmic truth and pure emotion where vocabulary falls short.
Exactly how Rhys views Magellan, as he watches her overcome her immense glossophobia to play the instruments needed to open the portals, he searches his linguistic catalog for a word to define his feelings for her.
He settles on the Turkish phrase kara sevda, which translates to a blind, passionate, all-consuming love.
Which makes the temporal paradox they find themselves trapped in all the more heartbreaking.
The sources describe a moment where the time travel mechanics bend back on themselves in a highly complex way.
While attempting to jump to the era of another composer, the portal misfires. Magellan and Rhys accidentally land 30 years off their target, arriving in the year 1799.
This is where the novel executes a classic bootstrap paradox, but infuses it with immense emotional and philosophical weight.
They land right back in the Hereford Labyrinth, but because it is 1799, Rhys hasn't even been born yet.
Instead, navigating the labyrinth, they encounter a young Gwendolyn Sherwood, Rhys's father, as a young, dapper Renaissance man who has not yet met Rhys's mother.
The layers of this encounter are staggering. When Rice was growing up in the 1800s, he frequently admired a painting hidden in his father's closet.
The painting was titled The Lady of the Labyrinth, and it was dated 1799.
Rhys always felt a strange connection to the woman in the painting, noting her resemblance to the woman he eventually finds in 1829.
Now, standing in 1799, he realizes his father is the artist who painted it, and Magellan is the subject.
The implications of this bootstrap paradox reframe Godwin's entire life. Godwin has known his entire adult life that his future son would eventually time travel back to 1799 alongside this incredible woman from the future.
It explains the core of Godwin's eccentricity. It completely rationalizes his behavior.
It explains why Godwin raised Rhys to be open-minded to the impossible, why Godwin was so obsessed with the labyrinth and the standing stones.
And crucially, why Godwin orchestrates the delivery of the 6th century diary to the Liron Institute so it can be sent to Magellan in the modern day.
Godwin knew the timeline had to be meticulously maintained because he had already witnessed its result in 1799.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces a philosophical debate regarding free will versus fate.
Rhys, the linguist, reflects on the Latin root of the word fate, fatum, which means a divine decree or that which has been spoken by the gods.
The paradox suggests that Rhys and Magellan did not stumble into each other by random chance.
They were inextricably drawn together by what Gwyned's diary calls the compass of the soul. Their choices were their own, yet the architecture of time ensured their meeting.
And the culmination of that fate leads to the emotional peak of the novel. They are trapped temporarily in 1799, hyper-aware that the winter solstice deadline is rapidly approaching and the world is still ending in the future.
Yet they choose to claim a moment of profound joy in the face of apocalypse. Rhys and Magellan decide to get married right there, in the center of the 1799 labyrinth.
It is a striking scene. Godwin, thrilled by the temporal mechanics playing out before him, rushes into town to procure a special marriage license.
He returns with a deeply bewildered local vicar to officiate, with Godwin acting as the sole witness.
Magellan holds a bouquet of red roses gathered from the labyrinth garden, which provides the exact visual image Godwin captures in the painting that will haunt Rhys's childhood.
It is a beautiful anchor of humanity before the narrative plunges into the final test. The clock is relentlessly ticking.
It is December 19th. They successfully leave 1799 and jump to Austria in a desperate bid to locate General Mozart before the solstice.
This brings us to the climax of the narrative, and the sensory details provided in the sources paint a picture of absolute chaos.
They arrive in Austria, but the temporal labyrinth is violently destabilizing.
The dimensional doorways have been stressed beyond their limits by the collapsing magnetic field.
They are at the shoreline of Lake Wolfgang, under a sky torn apart by thunder, facing a massive, overwhelming horde of the lower dimensional shadows.
The environment is actively hostile, freezing rain is coming down, and the air is filled with the deafening shrieks of these entities whose sole purpose is to destroy the high-frequency atoms holding the world together.
They are completely pinned down at the water's edge.
In this moment of crisis, Godwin, who had managed to travel with them in their carriage, provides the final tactical advantage.
He realizes that Lake Wolfgang, a body of water named after a historical saint known for performing miracles, is situated directly on a major ley line intersection.
He quickly unties a small rowboat, and the three of them desperately row out into the freezing water to escape the shoreline assault.
But the reality of the ley line mechanics forces a devastating choice. To escape the shadows, close the portal, and return to her own time to save the world, Magellan must play her instrument, an oboe in this instance, to unlock the ley line beneath the lake.
However, the portal she opens will only respond to her temporal signature. Doing so means she must leave Rhys and Godwin behind in the past.
It represents the ultimate sacrifice. She is terrified the shadows are swarming the boat, but she internalizes the wisdom from Gwyned's diary.
The sources describe her transformation in this moment from a woman crippled by glossophobia into the absolute commander of her power. She becomes the captain of an ancient ship.
And the choice of music she uses to fight back the darkness is thematically perfect. Rather than playing classical pieces or aggressive battle anthems, she plays pure love songs.
The text mentions melodies like Unchained Melody and I Will Always Love You.
She chooses these because love represents the absolute highest vibrational frequency in the universe. It is the only force potent enough to repel the low vibrational shadows.
She pours every ounce of her breath into the oboe, maintaining unbroken eye contact with Rhys as her physical form literally fades out of 1829, hurtling back to the modern era.
The physical separation is undeniably tragic. but it serves to cement the thematic core of the entire novel.
Gwynedd wrote in her diary, "One lifetime is but a star in the sky of the soul, and the soul is as vast as an endless sea."
Their physical bodies are separated by centuries of time, but the narrative asserts that their soul connection, their yuanfen, remains eternally intact across the 12,000-year cycle.
Magellan materializes back in her apartment in modern-day Queens. She has survived the labyrinth. She has successfully gathered the fragmented pieces of the ancient symphony.
But the immense challenge of the deep dive does not end with her return.
Far from it. Having the sheet music is only the first step. She now faces the monumental task of actually performing the symphony before the solstice fully flips the poles.
And the scale of the required performance is awe-inspiring. It cannot be executed by a single orchestra.
The symphony demands the participation of every type of instrument, vast choirs of human voices, and armies of drums designed to mimic the literal heartbeat of the earth.
Furthermore, in a beautiful acknowledgement of the planet's actual composition, the sources state she realizes she needs to incorporate the songs of whales into the symphony, recognizing that the oceans cover 70% of the Earth.
It is not a human song. It is a true planetary symphony requiring global harmony.
Which leaves us with a massive provocative thought to consider.
The mythology explicitly states that the final, sixth piece of the song must be delivered by Horus, the superbeing son of the goddess.
But as Magellan attempts to gather musicians from across the modern globe to play this massive symphony and halt the geomagnetic storm, we have to look at our own reality.
How exactly does a deeply divided, fractured modern humanity overcome its own intense discord to achieve that level of global harmony?
It's the ultimate lingering question Womack leaves her readers with. If, as the 6th century diary claims, every atom on this planet sings the same song, we have to ask ourselves about the specific frequency we are contributing to the whole.
What is the melody you are broadcasting into the world right now? Is your frequency adding to the shadows, feeding the discord, the silencing of voices, and the destruction?
Or is your song, your voice, actively helping to keep the Earth spinning in the light?
That is something to truly think about as you navigate the complexities of your own daily life.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into The Last Labyrinth. We hope you keep exploring the music, the hidden history, and the profound connections in your own lives. We'll catch you on the next one.